It was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime, a 50th anniversary celebration in London. But for the Harrison family, it turned into a nightmare at Gate B42. It all started with 7 words from a gate agent. "These passports don't look right." What happened next wasn't just an argument. It was an abuse of power, so blatant, so shocking, that within seconds the highest levels of corporate headquarters were patched into the conflict live. This isn't just a story about a bad day. It's about a hidden corruption that was about to be blown wide open. The air in JFK's Terminal 4 was a familiar soup of anxiety, stale coffee, and the faint, kerosene-scented promise of departure. It was 7:30 p.m., and the line for Aerowing Airlines Flight 88 to London Heathrow snaked back from Gate B42. In that line stood the Harrison family. David Harrison, a corporate lawyer with a specialty in logistics, held his family's 4 passports in one hand and his phone in the other, idly scrolling through emails. Beside him, Dr. Chloe Harrison, a pediatric cardiologist, was performing a last-minute check of their carry-on bags. "Maya, did you pack your charger?" she whispered. "Yes, Mum." 10-year-old Maya sighed, her headphones bouncing on her neck. Her 15-year-old brother James just leaned against a pillar, all lanky teenage indifference, texting his friends about the Wi-Fi on the plane. They were a picture of the modern, successful American family, composed, organized, and excited. This wasn't just a vacation. It was a pilgrimage. David's parents, living in Surrey, were celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary, and the Harrisons were the surprise centerpiece of the party. They'd been planning this for 8 months. The boarding process began. Zone 1. Zone 2. The line shuffled forward. At the podium stood Brenda Riley. Brenda had worked for Aerowing for 19 years. 19 years of scanning passes, checking baggage sizes, and enforcing rules that felt to her like the only real structure in the world. She wore her navy blue uniform like armor. Her blonde hair was pulled into a bun, so tight it seemed to pull at the corners of her eyes, giving her a look of permanent pinched disapproval. The Harrisons flying business class were in Zone 2. They approached the podium, David in the lead. "Good evening," David said, offering a polite smile as he placed the 4 dark blue passports on the scanner. Brenda didn't look up. She took the first passport, David's, and scanned it. Beep. She looked at the screen. She looked at David. Her eyes held on him for a fraction of a second too long. A flicker of something. Calculation. She took the second passport. Chloe's. Beep. She looked at the screen, then at Dr. Harrison. The same cold, appraising stare. She took James's passport. Beep. Then Maya's. Beep. The line behind them waited. The automated gate next to her podium remained closed. Brenda stacked the 4 passports neatly, one on top of the other, and pushed them to the side of her console, away from the scanner. "Is there a problem?" David asked, his polite smile freezing into a polite mask. Brenda finally met his gaze. Her voice was flat, devoid of any customer service warmth. "I'm going to need you 4 to step aside." The energy shifted instantly. The hum of the terminal seemed to fade, replaced by a sharp, focused silence. James pulled out his earbuds. "Step aside where?" Chloe asked, her voice calm and precise, the way she spoke to anxious parents before a surgery. Brenda gestured with her chin to the sterile, empty space of wall between the podium and the passenger seating. "Over there. Please wait." "I don't understand," David said, keeping his voice level. "Did the scans not go through?" "Our tickets are confirmed. Our seats are 8A, B, C, and D. Sir, I need you to step aside, Brenda repeated. This time her voice had an edge, a brittle authority. We will, David said, but you need to tell us why. Is it a seating issue? The flight isn't oversold, is it? Brenda sighed, a put-upon theatrical sound. She picked up David's passport, opening it, and staring at his photo. She held it up to the light as if it were a $20 bill she suspected was counterfeit. These passports, she announced, her voice now loud enough for the next 3 families in line to hear, don't look right. A collective intake of breath. The passengers behind the Harrisons shuffled their expressions ranging from impatience to overt curiosity. Don't look right, Chloe repeated, stepping forward. What does that mean? They are official government-issued passports. We just used them 6 months ago for a trip to Montreal. This is an international flight, ma'am, Brenda said, her tone dripping with condescension. The requirements are stringent. She tapped David's photo with a perfectly manicured crimson-red fingernail. The photo quality is off, and the laminate on this one, she picked up Maya's, feels thin. David's legal mind was already spinning, cataloguing the microaggressions, the baseless accusation. This wasn't a stringent check. This was a shakedown. Brenda, David said, reading her name tag clearly. Those passports were issued by the U.S. State Department. They are 100% valid. Please scan them again or call your supervisor. I am the supervisor for this gate, Brenda lied, puffing up slightly. And I'm telling you, I have concerns about the authenticity of these documents. Now she wasn't just implying it. She was accusing them of forgery, of a federal crime. You're accusing us of traveling on fake passports, Chloe asked, her voice losing its clinical calm and gaining a sharp, cold edge. You're accusing me of trying to travel to London with my 2 children on fraudulent documents. Mum, what's going on? Maya whispered, her small hand grabbing the sleeve of Chloe's jacket. Ma'am, I'm just doing my job, Brenda said, a smirk playing on her lips. She was enjoying this. The power, the control, the way this impeccably dressed, educated black family was now at her mercy. We've had a lot of high-quality fakes coming through from certain groups. The dog whistle was so loud it was a foghorn. We are not a certain group, Brenda, David said, his voice dropping to a low, dangerous register. We are your passengers. Now I am asking you one last time to scan our passes and let us board our flight or get your station manager. Brenda's eyes narrowed. She picked up the phone at her console. Oh, I'll get someone. Don't you worry. She punched in a number. Yes, this is Brenda Riley at B42. I have a situation. 4 passengers, a family. Suspected document fraud. Yes, the Harrisons. I need Port Authority police to the gate. She had called the police. Not a manager, not a red-coated Aero Wing supervisor. She had called the cops. Chloe's blood ran cold. James instinctively put his arm in front of his little sister. The entire gate area was now staring openly. Phones were emerging. Not to record, not yet, but to text. Flight delayed. Some drama at the gate. But one person was recording. Sitting in the Zone 1 priority, seating a man in a nondescript grey hoodie and jeans who had been tapping away on his laptop, had quietly propped his phone against his coffee cup. His name was Mark Jenkins, and he was the Vice President of Global Customer Experience for Aero Wing Airlines. He was on his way to the London office for a quarterly review. He always flew unannounced in civilian clothes to see exactly this. the unfiltered reality of his airline. He watched Brenda's performance with a growing, sickening sense of dread. As Brenda hung up with security, Mark Jenkins' thumb hovered over his contacts. He wasn't calling the station manager. He wasn't even calling his direct boss. He was calling Daniel Bishop, CEO. He hit the call button. "This is an outrage," Chloe said, her voice shaking with a mixture of fear and fury. "You are doing this because we're black. There is no other reason." "Ma'am, you're becoming hysterical," Brenda said, relishing the word. "You need to calm down, or I'll have a security remove you from the terminal entirely." "We're not going anywhere," David said, pulling out his own phone. He hit record, aiming it right at Brenda's face. "This is David Harrison. We are at Gate B42. It is 7:38 p.m. We are being illegally detained by this gate agent, Brenda Riley, who has accused my family of passport fraud and has refused to call her manager." Brenda's face turned scarlet. "You can't film me." "It's a public space," David said, his lawyer voice now fully activated. "You are acting in an official capacity for Aero Wing. I am documenting your baseless accusation." Two Port Authority officers, one a stocky older man named Alvarez, and his younger, more rigid partner, Officer Chen, arrived. "What's the problem here?" Officer Alvarez asked, his eyes sweeping the scene, the defiant gate agent, the well-dressed family, the wall of staring passengers. "Thank God," Brenda said, stepping forward. "These 4 individuals are trying to board with fraudulent passports. I've confiscated the documents and they've become aggressive." "We have not been aggressive," Chloe shot back. "And you didn't confiscate anything. You took them and refused to return them." "Sir," David said, turning to Alvarez, "this agent has made a serious, defamatory, and entirely false accusation against my family. We are U.S. citizens. Those are our passports. We are trying to fly to see my parents for their 50th anniversary. We ask for a supervisor from the airline, but she called you." Officer Alvarez looked at Brenda. He'd seen this before. Power-tripping gate agents were a dime a dozen. "Ma'am," he said to Brenda, "what's the specific issue with the passports? Do they not scan in your system?" They scanned," Brenda admitted, her voice faltering for the first time. "The names match the tickets, but the feel, it's just wrong. I'm telling you, they're fakes." Alvarez sighed. "So they're valid in your system, but you're holding them based on a feeling." Just as Brenda opened her mouth to argue, a calm new voice cut through the tension. "That's an excellent question, officer." Everyone turned. The man in the grey hoodie, Mark Jenkins, was standing up, his own phone held to his ear. He looked directly at Brenda, his eyes as cold as a tundra. "In fact," Mark said, his voice projecting easily, "my colleague on the phone would like to know the answer too." He looked down at his phone's screen. "Brenda Riley, correct badge number 44901. Daniel is on the line. He's the CEO of Aero Wing Airlines, and he'd like to know why you've called the police on a diamond medallion family." Brenda Riley's face went from red to a color of white that matched the fuselage of the plane outside. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Corporate HQ hadn't just joined the call, they were already on the line. The silence that followed Mark Jenkins's words was heavier and more absolute than the drone of the 707's engines outside. Brenda Riley stared at the man in the hoodie as if he were an apparition. Who are you?" she stammered, her authority disintegrating in real time. Mark ignored her. He was still addressing his phone. "Yes, Daniel. No, she's right here. She's called Port Authority. Yes, accusing them of passport fraud after the documents successfully scanned in our system. I'm not sure I think she based it on the feel." Mark hit the speakerphone button. A new voice, crisp, powerful, and utterly devoid of patience, liced through the air of Gate B42. It was the voice of Daniel Bishop, CEO of Aerowing. "This is Daniel Bishop. Who am I speaking to?" Officer Alvarez, recognizing a chain of command that had just vaulted miles above his pay grade, stepped forward. "Officer Alvarez, Port Authority, sir. We were called for a document dispute." "Officer Saul." "Thank you for your time," the CEO's voice boomed. "There is no dispute. There is an employee, Brenda Riley badge 44901, who is acting in gross violation of corporate policy. She is to be removed from her post immediately. She is not to interact with another passenger." Brenda began to shake. "But, sir, the documents, Ms. Riley." Daniel Bishop's voice dropped into a terrifying, icy calm. "You are finished. You are suspended effective this second. You will be met by airport security and the station manager who I am calling now. You will hand over your badge. You will not say another word to the Harrison family. Do you understand me?" Brenda was hyperventilating her carefully constructed world of petty rules and gateside power imploding. "That wasn't a question," Bishop snapped. Mark Jenkins ended the call and pocketed his phone. He turned to the Harrisons, his entire demeanor changing from corporate executioner to deeply apologetic host. "Mr. and Dr. Harrison, I am Mark Jenkins, EVP of Global Customer Experience. On behalf of Aerowing Airlines and from the bottom of my heart, I am profoundly sorry. This is not who we are. This is appalling." David Harrison. His own phone, still recording, finally lowered it. He was a lawyer, and he knew a total unconditional surrender when he saw one. "Mr. Jenkins," David said, his voice tight with contained rage. "Your employee just publicly accused my family of a federal crime in front of a gate full of people. She humiliated my children. She called the police on us." "I know," Mark said, looking genuinely pained. He made eye contact with Chloe, then with James and Maya. "And there is no excuse. None. We will make this right. First, let's get you on this plane." As if on cue, a man in a red Aerowing supervisor's coat came sprinting down the concourse, his face pale and sweaty. This was Frank Lerner, the actual station manager. He'd clearly just gotten the call from the CEO. "Mark, Mr. Jenkins, I just heard," Frank panted, arriving at the podium. He looked at Brenda, his expression a mixture of fury and disbelief. "Brenda, what did you do?" Brenda, now in tears, pointed a shaking finger at David. Their passports felt wrong. "I was just following protocol." "That was not protocol," Frank yelled, his professional mask dropping. "Protocol is to call me. Protocol is to use the UV scanner under your desk. You called the cops. Frank." Mark Jenkins cut in his voice, all business. "Take her badge. Get her off my gate. Have her escorted to HR. She is not to touch an Aerowing system. I want her access revoked before she reaches the end of the concourse." "Yes, sir. Right away, sir." Frank turned to Brenda. "Give it to me, Brenda. Now." With a final broken sob, Brenda unclipped her ID badge and thrust it at him. She looked one last time at the Harrisons. Her eyes filled not with remorse, but with a venomous, spiteful hatred. She was a cornered animal. She had been humiliated, and in her mind, it was their fault. As Frank and Officer Chen led the weeping agent away, Officer Alvarez tipped his hat to David. "Sorry for the trouble, folks. Looks like you've got this handled." "Thank you, officer," Chloe said finally, letting out the breath she felt she'd been holding for 10 minutes. Mark Jenkins immediately took charge. He went behind the podium himself, picked up the 4 fraudulent passports, and scanned them one by one. Beep, 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 beep. "Welcome aboard, Mr. Harrison. Dr. Harrison, James, Meyer, you're in 8A through D. Please follow me. I'll escort you on board myself." He ushered the stunned family down the jet bridge. The other passengers who had witnessed the entire meltdown parted for them like the Red Sea. They boarded the plane to a surreal hush. "A flight attendant will be with you in a moment," Mark said, as they settled into their wide, lie-flat seats. "Your pre-departure champagne, or whatever the kids would like, is on the house. In fact, everything on this flight is on the house. Everything." He handed David his business card. "I will be in seat 14C. Please do not hesitate to come and get me if you need anything. And you will be hearing from our corporate office, my CEO's office. This is unacceptable." As Mark walked away, the cabin door was sealed. The family sat in silence as the plane pushed back from the gate. Meyer was the first to speak. "Mummy, is that lady? Is she in jail?" "I don't know, honey," Chloe said, her hand stroking her daughter's hair. "But she's in a lot of trouble." "She was lying," James said, his teenage indifference replaced by a simmering anger. He was staring at his father. "She lied, Dad. She said she was a supervisor. She said our passports were fake. She knew they weren't." "Why?" David Harrison stared out the window as the plane taxied toward the runway. As a lawyer, he hated unanswered questions, and this one was glaring. It wasn't just incompetence. It wasn't just racism, though that was clearly the weapon she had chosen. The look in Brenda's eyes, it was more than that. It was calculation. It was as if she had been trying to stop them. "But why? I don't know, son," David said, his brow furrowed. "But I'm going to find out." Meanwhile, in a windowless HR office back in Terminal 4, Brenda Riley was being processed for her suspension. She had stopped crying. The panic had been replaced by a cold, hard dread. As a stunned HR rep read her a list of her rights, Brenda discreetly pulled her personal cell phone from her purse. Her thumbs flew across the screen, sending a single coded text to a number saved under M Home. "They're on the plane. VP was here." It all went to hell. Seconds later, a reply came. "Idiot. Stay quiet. Don't talk to anyone. I'll fix this." Brenda's blood ran cold. She knew M didn't fix things. He ended them. And she had just failed him, spectacularly. The immediate karma of losing her job was nothing. The real karma she feared was just beginning. The next morning, the AeroWing global headquarters in Chicago, a gleaming 80-story glass and steel monolith known as the Spire, was operating with a barely contained sense of panic. Daniel Bishop's 78th floor office, normally a zen-like expanse of white marble and skyline views, felt like a war room. "He recorded it," Daniel said, pacing behind his massive oak desk. He wasn't yelling. He was worse. He was quiet. David Harrison recorded the whole thing. The accusation, the children, the police, and Mark's call. Cynthia Wu, AeroWing's general counsel, sat stiffly in one of the leather chairs. He's a logistics lawyer at Parker Stone & Fitch, a senior partner. He knows exactly what that footage is worth. The racial discrimination suit alone could. "Forget the suit, Cynthia. That's just money." Daniel cut in, stopping to look out over Lake Michigan. "This is a brand-level extinction event if it gets out. AeroWing Gate agent calls cops on black family. We'd be toxic by noon." Mark said the man was a diamond medallion, a cardiologist, a lawyer. This wasn't some ambiguous mistake. This was a targeted execution. Mark Jenkins, who had taken the red-eye back from London after only 3 hours on the ground, was on the video conference screen, his face drawn and exhausted. "Daniel, I was there," Mark said. It was worse than the video shows. The contempt from this agent Brenda Riley. It was personal. It was venomous. "Okay," Daniel said, sitting down. "So we fire her. We issue a profound apology. We refund the Harrisons' tickets and give them 1,000,000 Sky Miles. We make a large donation to the NAACP. Is that enough?" "No," Mark and Cynthia said in unison. Mark leaned into his camera. "Daniel, this is what I do. I watch our customer experience. This wasn't just a Karen having a power trip. This was deliberate. She lied about being a supervisor. She refused to call her manager. She refused to use the standard verification tools. She went straight for the nuclear option, calling the police. It felt like she had a mandate. It felt like she was trying to stop them from getting on that specific flight." Daniel Bishop went very still. In the airline industry, stopping a specific passenger had implications that went far beyond customer service. "A mandate from who?" Daniel asked. "I don't know," Mark said, "but that's what I want to find out. This isn't just an HR problem anymore. This is a security problem." "Agreed," Daniel said. "Mark, you're off the London Review. You're now leading an internal investigation. Full Level 4 clearance. You report only to me and Cynthia. I want her entire life under a microscope. Pull her employee file, her gate logs, her financials, her correspondence on our servers. I want to know who she eats lunch with, who she calls and why. After 19 years of mediocre performance, she suddenly decided to self-destruct on a high-value family." "I've already started," Mark said, pulling a file into view. Brenda Riley, 19 years of service. Dozens of minor passenger complaints. Rude, abrupt, unhelpful, standard stuff. But in the last 2 years, something changed. He highlighted a section. She's received 3 discretionary bonuses in the last 18 months, signed off by Martin Thorne. Cynthia Wu frowned. Martin Thorne, head of international ground operations. Why is a high-level logistics exec signing off on bonuses for a gate agent? That's not all, Mark said. I pulled her gate logs. Brenda has a habit of randomly flagging passengers for extra security screening. In the last 6 months, she's done it 47 times, always on international flights. And 45 of those 47 passengers were people of color. So she's a racist. We fire her for cause. It's clean, Cynthia said. It's not clean, Mark insisted. Look at the other side of the log. Her colleagues. I interviewed 2 other agents from the Beacon course last night before I flew back. They hate her. They say she's territorial. She takes care of certain passengers, waves them through even if their bags are too big. She's always on her personal phone texting. They called her the toll booth. Daniel Bishop and Cynthia Wu locked eyes. The toll booth. The implication was sickening. A gate agent taking bribes to overlook baggage fees. It's worse than that, I think, Mark said. I pulled the security footage from Gate B42 for 2 hours before Flight 88 boarded. Brenda was jumpy. She was on her phone constantly, texting. 10 seconds before the Harrison family walked up, she received a text. She read it, looked up, and saw them approaching. That's when her entire demeanor changed. She put the phone down, her face hardened, and she waited for them. This wasn't random Daniel. She was told to stop them. The room was silent. "Okay," Daniel said, his voice hard as steel. "This is now a corporate security investigation. I'm looping in our internal security head. Get a warrant for her company phone and text logs. Cross-reference every passenger she's ever flagged and every passenger she's ever waved through. I want to know what Martin Thorne is doing giving bonuses to a gate agent and what or who she's letting onto our planes." "What about the Harrisons?" Cynthia asked. "We wait," Daniel said. "We can't apologize until we know what we're apologizing for. If this is what I think it is, they weren't just victims of racism. They were targets. Mark, find out why." Mark nodded. "One more thing. David Harrison, the lawyer. His firm Parker, Stone and Fitch. I did a quick search. They're a boutique firm, but their specialty is complex import-export and logistics law." A new, colder dread filled the room. "Get me everything on Martin Thorne," Daniel ordered. "Now." Mark Jenkins, given the full power of the CEO's office, descended into the sterile, secure basement level of the Spire home to Aerowing's Global Security Operations Center, GSOC. He was met by Robert Ames, the airline's ex-FBI head of internal security. "Heard you had a fun flight," Ames said, his face a granite slab. "You have no idea," Mark replied. "The CEO thinks we have a criminal conspiracy. He wants Martin Thorne's digital life." "Thorne? The ground ops guy, that's a big fish," Ames said, raising an eyebrow. He led Mark into a glass-walled data forensics lab. "We're already in. The second the CEO gave the word, we pulled Thorne's and Riley's entire server-side histories. Emails, calendar system, logins, company-issued phone logs. What do you have?" Ames pointed to a massive wall-mounted screen displaying 2 columns of data. "Left side is Brenda Riley, right is Martin Thorne. We started with phone calls. On company lines, they've spoken 12 times in the last year. All short, plausible. Gate change, staffing issue. Nothing." "And on their personal phones?" Mark asked. "We can't legally pull those. Yet," Ames said. "But we can pull the company cell tower data for their company phones. Look at this." He brought up a map of JFK. Thorne's company phone and Riley's company phone were in the same place at TGI Fridays in the Terminal 4 Arrivals Hall 14 times in the last 6 months, all on Tuesday afternoons. Not a single calendar invite between them. These were off-the-books meetings. "He was paying her," Mark said. "The discretionary bonuses were just the official part. He was paying her cash to be his toll booth." "To let what through?" Ames asked. He switched screens. We cross-referenced every flight Riley worked with Thorne's cargo manifest overrides. We found a stunning correlation. He highlighted a flight. Aerowing 112 to Zurich. Riley is the gate agent. An hour before the flight, Thorne signs a manual override for a piece of cargo. AV spare parts. It's marked as Rush, company materials. It bypasses standard cargo screening. "And at the gate," Mark pressed, "at the gate 2 passengers. Let's call them Mr. White and Miss Black check in with Riley. Their carry-on bags are visibly over the weight limit. Our overhead cameras can see them sagging. Riley doesn't even glance at the sizer. She tags them and waves them on. Those bags, they're not full of clothes. They're couriers," Mark breathed. "They're carrying high-value items, and Thorne is matching their movements with a ghost cargo shipment. But why? Why not just put it all in the cargo?" "Plausible deniability," Ames said. "If the cargo gets flagged by customs in Zurich, he can claim it's a manifest error. The real cargo, is in the carry-on bags. If the couriers get caught, they're just greedy passengers trying to avoid baggage fees. The two halves are never connected. It's brilliant and disgusting. What are they smuggling us? Art, antiquities, Ames said, pulling up a file. We've been quietly cooperating with an insurance underwriter, Lloyd's of London. They believe a ring inside Aerowing is responsible for the disappearance of at least a dozen high-value items. A Picasso etching, a collection of Roman coins, a small Rodin sculpture, all lost in transit. Thorne, that magnificent bastard, is running a smuggling ring using our own planes. Mark's blood ran cold as the final terrible piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Lloyd's of London, Mark said. Who is their legal counsel on this investigation? Ames typed a few keys. A company name flashed on the screen. Parker Stone and Fitch. Mark grabbed the edge of the table. David Harrison's law firm. Oh my God, Ames said, his face ashen. Thorne must have found out the firm was hired. He didn't just find out, Mark said, his mind racing. He must have seen the name Harrison on the passenger manifest. He probably doesn't even know which lawyer at the firm is on the case. He just sees Harrison and Parker, Stone and Fitch. He panics. He thinks David Harrison's family vacation is a cover. He thinks Harrison is coming to London to conduct a secret investigation. So he calls his pit bull at the gate, Ames concluded. He tells Brenda Riley to stop that family, create a problem, make them miss the flight, rattle their cage, use any excuse you want. And Brenda, being the bigot she is, defaults to the ugliest, most obvious weapon she has, Mark finished. She accuses them of passport fraud. She was never supposed to let it get that far. She was just supposed to delay them until the gate closed. But she got high on the power. And then I was there. The two men stood in silence, grasping the scale of what they'd just uncovered. This wasn't just a PR crisis. This was a massive international criminal conspiracy, and the Harrison family, in the most terrifying way possible, had just stumbled right into the middle of it. David Harrison recorded it all, Mark said, thinking aloud. He has a video of the employee, who for all intents and purposes is Thorne's co-conspirator. That video is evidence. It's the linchpin. What are we doing, Mark? Ames asked. We are no longer an internal investigation, Mark said, pulling out his phone. He dialed Daniel Bishop. Daniel, we have it. It's worse than you can imagine. The Harrisons aren't just victims. They're witnesses in a federal case. What do you need? Daniel's voice was grim. You need to call the FBI. And you, Mark said to Cynthia Wu, who was patched in, need to call David Harrison. You need to tell him the truth, because his family, they might be in danger. While the investigation was exploding in Chicago, the Harrison family was trying to salvage their trip. They were in a black cab rolling through the London rain toward David's parents' home in Surrey. The anniversary party was that night, but the mood was funereal. The joy had been vacuumed out of the trip. Maya was quiet, nervously twisting the strap on her backpack. James was staring out the window, his earbuds in, but David could see his music wasn't playing. Chloe and David sat side by side, a foot of cold silence between them. We have to tell them, Chloe said finally. Tell them what? David asked, rubbing his temples. That our trip started with your mother-in-law's 50th anniversary, present this vacation being ruined by a racist gate agent. They're going to know something is wrong, David. We can't perform. I know, David sighed. I can't stop replaying it. The look on her face, the pleasure she was taking, and then the call, the CEO, a VP. Mark Jenkins. It doesn't add up. It's too extreme. You don't fire a 19-year employee on the spot like that unless what? "Unless you're terrified," David said. "They're not just scared of a lawsuit, Chloe. They're scared of her. They're scared of what she did." As if summoned by the thought, David's phone buzzed. It was an unknown Chicago number. He let it go to voicemail. It buzzed again immediately. "It's them," he said. He answered. "This is David Harrison. Mr. Harrison, my name is Cynthia Wu. I am the General Counsel for Aerowing Airlines. I am with our CEO Daniel Bishop and our EVP Mark Jenkins. We need to speak with you urgently. Are you in a private place?" David's blood chilled. This was not the "we're sorry" call. This was the "something is terribly wrong" call. "I am with my family. What is this regarding, Kultum?" "Sir." Cynthia's voice was steady and serious. "What I am about to tell you is sensitive. We have reason to believe the incident at the gate was not random. We believe you and your family were targeted." The cab felt suddenly dreadfully small. Chloe looked at him, her eyes wide. David put the phone on speaker. "Targeted by who?" "By Brenda Riley." "By an executive at our company," Cynthia said. "Mr. Harrison, does the name Martin Thorne mean anything to you?" "No," David said, confused. "He is our head of international ground operations. We have uncovered a significant criminal operation inside our cargo division. We believe Mr. Thorne targeted you because of your employer. He mistakenly identified you as an investigator." David Harrison felt the floor drop out from under him. My firm Parker Stone and Fitch. You're talking about the Lloyds of London audit." There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end of the line. You're aware of the case?" Cynthia asked. "I'm not on it, but yes. I know we were retained. It's a cargo theft analysis." David said, his mind racing, the pieces snapping into place with sickening speed. My God, he thought I was investigating him. He saw my name on the manifest. And he ordered the gate agent to stop you." Mark Jenkins' voice cut in. "David. May I call you David? Brenda Riley was his tool. He exploited her existing prejudices, to create a scene and force you to miss your flight." "So the racism, that was just a convenient excuse for her?" Chloe asked, her voice trembling. "We believe so, yes," Mark said. "She was the linchpin in his smuggling operation at the gate. He told her to stop you. She chose the method." Maya had started to cry. "Mom, what's wrong? Are we in trouble?" Chloe pulled her close. "No, baby, no, we're safe." She looked at David, her eyes blazing. "Are we, David? Are we safe? This man, this criminal, knows my husband's name. He knows his face. He knows he's here in London. That's why we're calling." Daniel Bishop's voice, the CEO's, came on the line. He sounded exhausted but firm. "We have already contacted the FBI. This is now an active federal investigation. But we feel we owe you more than that. We are arranging for a private security detail to meet you at your parents' home. They will be with you for the duration of your stay in the UK, at our expense. We are moving you, your family, and your parents to a secure hotel suite. The party. We will move the party, whatever it costs." David was speechless. This had spiraled from a humiliating incident into a Tom Clancy novel. "And Brenda Riley?" David asked. "She is in federal custody," Cynthia said. "She was arrested an hour ago, along with Martin Thorne. It seems Mr. Thorne, after hearing from Ms. Riley, panicked. He tried to access the cargo bay to destroy evidence and was apprehended by our security team, who were waiting for him." The hard karma had been swift. "What do you need from us?" David asked, his lawyer's mind taking over. "Your recording," Cynthia said. "The video you took. The FBI is requesting it. It's the primary evidence linking Riley's targeted action to the larger conspiracy." "Understood," David said. "David," Daniel Bishop said. "I know this is inadequate. But when you and your family return, I want you to fly to Chicago. I want you to sit in my office. I want to apologize to you face to face, and we will discuss restitution for what my company has done, for what my employees have done." "We'll be there," David said, his voice grim. "But right now, I have to go tell my parents their anniversary party is being moved because their son was just mistaken for a spy." He hung up the phone. He looked at his wife, at his son, at his daughter. The trauma of the gate had been replaced by the surreal shock of the conspiracy. "Well," James said into the silence, trying to make a grim joke, "at least it wasn't just 'cause we're black." "No, son," David said, putting his arm around him. "It was 'cause we're black, and 'cause your dad's a lawyer. It's a 2-for-1 deal." Chloe didn't laugh. She just held Maya tighter as the cab followed now by a new dark sedan that had been waiting at the corner turned onto the lane to his parents' cottage. The vacation was over. The ordeal was just beginning. The arrest of Martin Thorne and Brenda Riley sent a shock wave through Aerowing Airlines. It wasn't just a corporate scandal. It was the collapse of a sophisticated criminal enterprise. The FBI, led by a sharp, no-nonsense agent named Sarah Drummond, took over the 78th floor of the Spire. Daniel Bishop, to his credit, gave them everything. "Open the books," he ordered. "I want them rooted out. Every last one." Brenda Riley, facing a 20-year sentence for racketeering, conspiracy, and interfering with a federal investigation, which David Harrison technically was now a witness for, folded in less than an hour. She sat in a cold interrogation room, her navy blue uniform long gone, replaced by a grey sweatshirt. The tight bun was gone, her limp, thinning hair falling around her sallow face. The power-tripping supervisor was gone, replaced by a terrified, broken woman. "It wasn't supposed to be like that," she whimpered, twisting a "he was just supposed to miss the flight. I was just supposed to hold him up, argue about his bag or his seat or anything." "But you chose his passport," Agent Drummond said, sliding a photo of David Harrison across the table. "Martin, Mr. Thorne, he said the guy was dirty. He said he was some shady lawyer coming to snoop. He said he was one of them." "I knew what he meant," she said, her voice dropping. "What did he mean, Brenda? He meant, suspicious. Like the ones who always try to bend the rules. I saw them, and they looked so fancy, so smug, and Martin's words were in my head. Stop him." So I did. I picked the one thing that would really stop them. The one thing that would get the cops there and make it a real problem. "You accused them of a federal crime," Drummond stated. I was just doing what he told me," she cried. "He told you to delay a passenger, Brenda. You chose to use racial profiling and a false accusation to do it. You did that all on your own." Brenda's confession, along with the data from Mark Jenkins's internal probe, was the key. She gave them the gate-side mechanics of the smuggling. She detailed the cash payments in the TGI Fridays, the coded texts, the passengers she'd waved through, and the rivals she'd flagged. Martin Thorne, meanwhile, was a different animal. He was a cold, arrogant executive. He sat in his interrogation room in his $3,000 suit, demanding his lawyer. But his lawyer, upon seeing the evidence, the cargo overrides the security footage of him in the cargo bay. Brenda's signed confession and the video from David Harrison's phone gave him blunt advice. You're done, Martin. They have you on video. They have your co-conspirator, and they have the entire data trail. You're not a CEO. You're a mid-level crook, and you just got caught. Your only play is to give them your buyers. So Martin Thorne, the man who ran an international smuggling ring, began to talk. He gave up the art dealer in Zurich, the antiquities broker in Hong Kong, and the web of corrupt customs officials and baggage handlers he'd paid off on 3 continents. The hard karma was relentless. Over the next 72 hours, 28 people were arrested in 6 countries. The Aerowing smuggling ring was front-page news. The story, however, was not "Executive busted by FBI." The media-fed the narrative by Aerowing's frantic PR team framed it differently: how a family's holiday nightmare uncovered a global crime ring. The Harrisons, sequestered in a luxury suite at the Dorchester in London, became the unwilling accidental heroes of the story. Their 50th anniversary party did happen. Aerowing flew David's parents, his siblings and all their guests to the hotel, putting them up in a lavish ballroom. Daniel Bishop and Mark Jenkins flew in themselves. In a private room before the party, Daniel Bishop stood before the entire Harrison clan. Our words of apology are meaningless," he said, his voice raw. "Your family. You were subjected to the single worst failure a company can have. A failure of security, a failure of character, and a failure of basic human decency. The employee who did this, she used her prejudice as a weapon in service of a crime. And you were the ones who were hurt." He turned to David and Chloe. "We can't undo that 10 minutes at Gate B42. We can't take back the fear she put in your children. But we can, and we will, show you our gratitude. We have, of course, settled the civil claim with your attorney." The settlement was, by all accounts, 8 figures. "But beyond that," he continued, "Mr. Harrison's video, it was the final critical piece of evidence that brought this all down. You didn't just endure this. You solved it." David looked at his family, at his parents who were holding their grandchildren's hands. He had wanted to bring them a celebration. Instead, he'd brought them a federal case. "Mr. Bishop," David said, "what you're doing now, this is appreciated. But the problem isn't just one woman. It's not just one criminal executive. You had a system where a woman like Brenda Riley could flourish for 19 years. You had a system where a man like Martin Thorne could exploit her bigotry for his own profit. You're fixing the crime, but you still haven't fixed the culture." Mark Jenkins stepped forward. "You're right, David, 100%, which is why, as of yesterday, I've been put in charge of a new division, corporate accountability and training. And my first act, I want to hire your firm, not as lawyers, as auditors. I want you to help me design a system, a real one, that prevents this from ever happening again." It was a brilliant move, a way to turn a victim into a partner. David looked at Chloe. She gave a single firm nod. "We can do that," David said. "We can start on the flight home." 6 months later, the main courtroom at the Eastern District of New York Federal Courthouse was packed. This was the sentencing of Martin Thorne and Brenda Riley. The Harrison family was there. They sat in the front row directly behind the prosecution. David, Chloe, and even James. Maya stayed with her grandparents. Martin Thorne, pale and diminished in an ill-fitting suit, was sentenced first. The judge was merciless, citing the unfathomable breach of public trust and the endangerment of global commerce. He was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. He didn't even look at the Harrisons as he was led away. Then it was Brenda's turn. She stood before the judge, weeping. Her lawyer argued for leniency. She was a pawn, a tool of a powerful man. She was cooperative. The prosecutor stood up. "Your Honor, Brenda Riley was not just a pawn. She was the hand that moved the pawn. She was given a vague instruction to delay a passenger, and she made the choice to deploy a racist, traumatic, and false accusation of a federal crime against a family. She called the police on children. Her cooperation came only after she was caught. Let's not forget the video." David's phone recording was played on the large screens. The whole courtroom heard it again. "These passports don't look right." "Ma'am, you're becoming hysterical." "I need Port Authority police to the gate." Brenda flinched at the sound of her own voice. Chloe Harrison watched her not with hatred, but with a cold, clinical pity. This woman, this small, bitter woman, had in her one act of petty tyranny destroyed her own life. The judge looked at Brenda. "Ms. Riley, you were the face of this conspiracy for the Harrison family. You were the one who chose to inflict cruelty. You abused your power. You abused the public trust, and you did so based on the color of a family's skin. You are the why this house of cards came down. For your cooperation, I will be lenient on the racketeering charge. But for the conspiracy and the false report, you must be held accountable." Brenda Riley was sentenced to 3 years in a low-security federal prison. As she was cuffed, her eyes finally met David's. He didn't flinch. He just held his gaze, a silent testament to the fact that he was still standing and she was not. The hard karma was complete. The story didn't end there. The Harrison incident became a legend in the airline industry. Mark Jenkins, with guidance from David's firm, truly did overhaul Aerowing. They implemented a real-time ethics hotline where any employee could anonymously flag a suspicious order from a superior, and it would be patched live to the internal security center. The Harrison family used a significant portion of their settlement to start the Harrison Foundation for Travelers' Rights, a legal fund dedicated to helping people fight discrimination in public spaces. The final scene of this real-life drama took place a year later. Brenda Riley, now an inmate, was mopping the floor in the prison rec room. On the small wall-mounted television, a local news channel was playing. A reporter was standing in JFK's Terminal 4, right in front of Gate B42. "Today marks the 1-year anniversary of the Harrison Gate incident, which brought down a global smuggling ring," the reporter said. "And today, Aerowing, with David and Dr. Chloe Harrison, unveiled a new state-of-the-art passenger Bill of Rights display now at every gate." The camera panned. There, standing at the very podium where Brenda had tried to destroy them, were David, Chloe, James, and Maya. They were smiling, poised, and powerful, cutting a blue ribbon. Brenda stopped mopping. She stared at the screen at the family she had tried to break. They had not been broken. They had been forged, her petty racist impulse born of bitterness and fueled by a criminal's paranoia, had been the tiny grain of sand that seized the entire machine. She had tried to close a gate on them, and in doing so had opened a prison door for herself and a new, more powerful life for the family she had wronged. The karma wasn't just hard, it was poetic. She picked up her mop and continued her work. The gate agent's voice on the TV, now announcing the final boarding call for a flight she would never take. In the end, it wasn't just Brenda's job that was lost. The hard karma we talked about. It came in the form of federal investigators and a courtroom gavel. The Harrisons' ordeal at Gate B42 wasn't just an isolated incident. It was the thread that unraveled a massive criminal conspiracy. It just goes to show that sometimes the smallest abuse of power is hiding the biggest crime. What do you think is the real-world lesson here? Have you ever witnessed something like this? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you believe these stories need to be told, please hit that like button. Share this video and subscribe for more real-life drama and hard karma.